Dan, I've said earlier that this season is going to be one on parallel tracks, what's going on the field and what's going on off of it. And yesterday, the Bears made the announcement and they unveiled some of their conceptual planning about Arlington Heights, and the artist renderings were interesting. I know that you're concerned about the parking, according to your Twitter feed, but beyond that, what did you think overall of the announcement and how ambitious it looks?
Well, there were a lot of italicized ifs throughout the Bears statement. If we do this, if we do that. You called the renderings interesting. I'd like to get more of your guys' feedback on what you thought of those, because my initial glance at those were, wow, I was really kind of hoping this thing would pop a little more. And I think obviously they're in the very early stages, and that's not anything what it's ultimately going to look like. But you know, there are a lot of areas that I had a friend text me who lives in Arlington Heights and says a lot of that looks like a business park, right? It doesn't look like, wow, I really want to go there and soak in the environment of this, you know, entertainment, retail and housing district that they're building there. So I'm curious there. And then, I mean, the parking is a real question, right? Like these are questions we ask of an organization because we don't trust that they have the ability to get this thing 100% right. And you look at those drawings and you're like, have they thought this through enough to be like, oh yeah, we've got to allow this much space so that cars can come in on game day and actually have a game day environment there? I don't know. I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. They're going to try to answer some of them at Hersey High School tomorrow night. And we've got years ahead of us with this project, and we'll certainly be fascinated to keep tabs on it. But what did you guys think of the renderings? They didn't blow me away.
Giant ice cube. I mean, I don't know.
It's hard to tell yet because there's so much specificity that's lacking. Yes. And I think there's so many designs that are yet to come. I think what they wanted to do, the purpose of yesterday, was just let people know exactly what they are specifically planning. And frankly, Dan, the biggest news yesterday from the stadium standpoint was the roof.
Enclosed, right? Yeah.
Goodbye, bare weather, if that was ever a reality at all.
Well, yeah, and we talked about that, right? Like if you're going to build this new stadium, you were going to put a roof on it because you're going to want to do the things that they announced that they want to do, which is host a college football playoff, host a Super Bowl, host Final Fours, right? And be in the mix for Big Ten championship games and things of that nature. And so that's just a purely sensible business decision there that it was never going any other way from the day that they announced that they were interested in this property. And so you just got confirmation there that that's what this is going to look like. And David, as you and I talked about last week, you can build a retractable wall. Don't knock the retractable wall.
Oh boy, that sounds like fun. I got to tell you, you know, it's going to be really interesting to see how much public support they expect and if they have any leverage to demand that, Dan. It'll be really interesting to see what they propose tomorrow night. And I, unfortunately, will be wrapped up in the NFL and watching the season opener. I wish I could go out there.
Yeah, there's a good football game tomorrow night, right? I think a lot of the football world is eager to hear that. But yeah, I think we're all going to be eager to see what is said and what some of the feedback is. They've, you know, the biggest question I still have on this project is how are you funding this, right? And They said they're not going to ask for public funding for, quote, the direct stadium structure construction. Okay, so that's part of it that's off the books somehow, some way. But you still got to figure out how to come up with billions and billions of dollars, multiple billions, to get this project to where it needs to go. And I still don't know where all that's coming from just yet. And hopefully in the years to come, they'll give us some answers.
Dan, as we talked about on the Take the North podcast, which dropped yesterday, and the Ted Phillips decision, an announcement to retire at the end of the year, great story on the Weekend Trib. You had a lot to say. I'm curious, though, specifically as it pertains to this Arlington Heights project, do you think that Ted Phillips will stay on in some sort of advisory role? Because it doesn't end in February. This is an ongoing thing, and he's the point man on this ongoing thing. So it wouldn't make any sense for him just to walk away, even though he has explained and articulated why he wants to walk away now.
You would hope that he would still have some level of involvement in at least making sure that there's a smooth handoff, right? And we don't know who the next team president is going to be. We don't know if there's going to be a restructuring of roles and how they're going to ultimately come to a power structure there that makes sense. But this is a massive project that is going to define the next 30 to 40 years of your franchise, right? And you better have some plans so that it's not just a willy-nilly handoff and a new person coming in with new vision that hasn't been a part of the early stages of the progress. And so there's a lot that goes with this. And again, I go back to what I said at the start of this discussion is none of us trust this organization to get it right because they have so many instances in their past of getting things wrong. And so everyone, I think, kind of sits on pins and needles, just crossing their fingers and praying and hoping that there's not a colossal blunder in some part of this process that makes us look back and go, God, they had a golden opportunity there and they totally messed it up. And so that's part of it, right? Is having a succession plan and having a succession plan as it relates to this project so that you can get moving forward in the right direction.